address where he talked about, looking at the argument for the tenets of authoritarian regime, which a lot of people said, for instance, in China has provided a fertile ground for development and productivity. So does it mean that democracy is not working in Nigeria? What really should Nigeria be practicing? He talked about social democracy versus liberal democracy. And in elections as well, he also layered the need for the transformation for local governance, not just local government. So I will go straight into the conversation right now, and I would be starting because, when Mr. Joe spoke, he talked about elections, he talked about INEC. I know I was coming to you. And, he talked about the true independence of the Independent National Electoral Commission as an institution. And I would like to start with you, Alhaji Shehu. You are the resident electoral commissioner for Nasarawa State. And listening to what His Excellency said earlier, he talked about the true independent nature of our Independent National Electoral Commission, and that the independence of election is a gateway, first of all, to truly recognizing the roadmap to democracy and accountability. So I would want to ask you, really, from your vantage point as a state rec, how can we then strengthen institutional independence? How can we strengthen institutional independence and accountability at the subnational level? Because, I'm tying it, first of all, that elections are first local because they are closer to the people. So how can we tie it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like you've rightly introduced me, I'm the resident electoral commissioner for Nasarawa State. One thing that perhaps is good to understand and know about me is the fact that for 34 years and 7 months, I was a staff of INEC as a civil servant. That I'm now a rec is not a promotion, it's a different appointment. That's political appointment. And what I found is that the functions and the responsibilities of INEC as an agency to conduct election remains the same. How well the individuals that man these offices perform now lies with several factors, several, including the kind of accountability and the engagement by civil society. One is your own personal conviction. I have my ideals of how I think things should be done as far as election administration is concerned. And I see my appointment as the resident electoral commissioner as an opportunity for me to do some of the things that I believe ought to be done to ensure that elections were conducted. The institution remains the same, the functions remain the same, the powers remain the same, but the individuals and the values with which you go into this, manage these offices matters so much. I'm worried as a Nigerian that we must not let this democracy fail. I'm also concerned and conscious of the fact that for so many people, democracy is seen within the realm of conduct of election. Election is at the center of democracy. So if I am now in charge of managing election, that process, I hold the people a duty to ensure all the pre-election activities. And it's important we get this argument very clear. When we say beyond the poll, that poll is not election. Several activities went before the poll. Parties were registered. The process of registering political parties and management of political parties is at the heart of having credible election at the end of the day. Where the party registration or the management of political parties ab initio is warped. It's one in which ordinary citizens, those who have the appeal of the people, are unable to be fielded as candidates. Such that at the end of the day, you have a set of elements that are candidates at elections that do not really appeal to the people. The battle is already getting lost. And I think we should understand that. A gentleman approached me, sorry that I have to do that. A gentleman approached me, he's a student of University of Nasarawa State University. The people in his community love him so much because the guy has been a grassrooter, very nice guy. And his challenge is that I want to contest election. My people want me, but this guy does not have money. So the first challenge, how does he even get nominated by his party? Case is lost in election before the poll, either by the management of parties, by the nature of campaign that attended the election, before the issue of how credible the Electoral Commission itself manages the process. So when we talk about the need for this institution, it's not the institution of INEC alone, it is strengthening the institutions that manage the processes that produce the leaders that we call for. I think this is very important. Like I told you, I'm worried. I work with INEC. I'm concerned about something as far as elections in Nigeria is concerned. The money that is spent to even conduct, to manage election is so much. Is so much. In the last 2023 election, I was going through the report. It's actually in the public domain. INEC spent about 325 billion. It's in the report of the election. Now, the problem lies in the fact that when the people read this kind of report and say, so we spend this much, for what? For what? For what they're asking, that what are we getting at the end of the day? The challenge, the problem therefore is, INEC has done his own election, people have been elected. There could be questions about how credible some of those elections were. But the question they are posing is not about, it's about how those people govern, which is actually out of the purview of INEC. How they govern after being elected is a big issue. And that was the point Professor Egwu was harping about. To what extent are the people that are elected as honorable members of assembly, House of Representatives, how well do they touch at the core of the life of the people, which is the policy, the economy? But for us, we will face the brunt if we are not careful. And the problem, the challenge we face and the danger we face is that should the people lose confidence in election, we are in trouble.
All right, I will take it from there. Do you still have confidence in the elections? No. I can only hear from this side. Do you still have confidence in the election? You don't. So they've answered your question in foresight. You know, you say should the people lose confidence. So I think I'll take it from there. But let's carry on. Thank you so much for those nuggets of insight. And it's very instructive that I come to you because you listen to what he said. And I take it from where our last speaker talked about political parties. He said political parties have struggled as vehicles for state capture of power. And he's also talked about institutions that manage the process before the elections. And the political parties are one of those institutions. And Deputy Chairman, you know, when you think about political parties, a lot of people think that they are supposed to be gatekeepers of democracy because they provide a platform for leadership to emerge and people to believe in the system. But credible candidature within political party system is slowly being eroded. So where then lies the adventure of the trust process for the citizens if the political parties cannot be said to have internal democracy? So I would want you to speak to the issue of internal party democracy and candidate emergence and how that works.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You see, the problems we have with our democracy, if we really want to solve them, I think we need to see how we can develop our political parties. The constitution is very clear. The political parties are the vehicle through which you can get into office. But you discover that since we started this democracy, this Fourth Republic, the political parties have become like tools in the hands of the executive, especially when they win elections. The constitution needs to be worked upon to make sure that the political parties through which people get into office are actually in the commanding height. But you find a situation when people get into office, they become the lords over the political parties. They are no more answerable to the political parties. We were discussing about a month ago at the IPAC Secretariat, and then somebody was showing us a video of when Alhaji Shehu El-Wahab was the president of the country. And we saw a situation where the national chairman of political parties was on the high table and the president was sitting among the other people. That was when the then chairman of the NPN, that was the ruling party then, could call the president to order. But today, because of the type of democracy we practice, once somebody emerges as the president or governor, he becomes the leader. Therefore, that is how we were killing democracy. The party does not have control over the executive. That the mandate, according to the constitution, belongs to the political party. So I think as we try to tinker with the political parties, let us forget about the internal democracy and stuff like that. What effort are we making as a nation to make our political parties to grow? That is why you see someone who claims to be a money bag will determine who becomes this or that. And that is when you hear of faction, it is because some 2 or 3 contending forces within the political party are fighting, because they are the one actually running the political party. Some of us, I remember when I was very small, my dad was a politician. And I discovered that anytime he wanted to go for a meeting, he would be looking for his membership due card. When he comes back, you will see the happiness in him that he has contributed to the growth of the political party, because that was when people were then in charge of political parties. But because of the problem of poverty, how many people can you invite to a political party meeting that you are now ask them to come and pay membership dues? When after the meeting, they will be waiting for transport money to go back home. So I think if we are really serious about developing our democracy, we need to really work on our political parties so that political parties will be actually in charge. You see someone who has won election on the platform of a political party. By the time he gets into office, nobody has control over him. He gets into National Assembly, he gets into State Assembly, and on the floor crosses to another political party. And there will be domination on the floor of the House. And the political party will just be looking, there's nothing they can do. The boss, they will say, go to court. Like Dr. Gbenga said, how many people have so much confidence in the court? Because they can go to court. And when judgments that are coming out from our court seem to have dampened the morale of political party leaders. That is why when you see a governor, a senator, they come to another political party, the party will just resign themselves to fate. So honestly, if we really want to develop our democracy, there's a need for us to actually see how we can develop our political party. So that political parties that have been mandated by the constitution to be the vehicle to should get into office will actually be the controller and the commanding height of the stuff. Because the REC just said something about elections. You see, it has become unfortunate that Nigerians seems to, just as they have said to say, party continue running yourself, running your affairs, Nigerians don't take hold of elections in this country. Maybe it's because of the hopes, of the high hopes Nigerians had when democracy was coming in 1999. Because when the 1999 came, maybe it's because of the first person who became the president that killed the power of the political parties. Okay. That was when a president would determine who becomes the chairman. That was when a president would write a letter of resignation for a party chairman to resign, and then before you know it, it's in the air. So that was what killed our democracy. Perhaps if our democracy, when we came in 1999, gave control of the political party, because we are controlling the government. But unfortunately, when we came to the political party, so it's and since then, Nigerians.
I wanted you to speak extensively because one of the key recommendations that were made here, and I think from both sides, Professor Sam and of course His Excellency in his last address, Professor Sam spoke to the fact that social power is in the hands of elites. And His Excellency also mentioned that we need people of courage to ensure democracy thrives. So that brings me to conversations on movements, on voices, on civil society engagement, and sustaining momentums for reform beyond election cycles. Because a lot is done and said pre-election, during and post, but continuous engagement, accountability, and gatekeeping seems to be watered down and left at the conversation of just personalities rather than the issues. So how can we look at this as a way of also reforming the ideals of what democracy means by having people who consistently engage within the space? And I'm saying this to you because, you've done a lot of work, in civil society organization convening as the NUJFCT, and also your work in the National Assembly and as a journalist. How do we amplify the voices post-election period to sustain our democracy?
Thank you very much. Okay. The last speaker had made, his last word was, democracy must make sense. And for me, that was what I picked out of his lecture. Because you talk about democracy, is off, for, by. It's centered about the people. It's all about the people. But even at that, we're not getting it right. And hence the need for conversations like this, discourse like this, meetings like this, conference like this. So imagine the question that was put out. How many of us feel or think there's democracy? Everybody shouting no. You call for another conference, you have the same set of persons. I mean, bring people together and you put out the same question. People are saying no. That means there's a problem. There's a disconnect. The followers are not actually carried along. So if you're saying democracy is of the people, by the people, and for the people, and the people are not feeling it, then there's distrust. And it's all about citizen trust. And so when there's distrust, the people no longer believe in you. They feel democracy is not working. And we also need to amplify our voices, amplify the voices of people, amplify programs like these that we promote, national discourse for national development, that will make people know that they have the right to know who should bring what for them, both at the constituency level. During the last election, I had people who said they are not ready to go get their PVC. I said, why? They say, of what use? It will not count. That when they go, their vote will not count. They have given up. And it's so pathetic, it's so painful. And even those who are leading, they don't feel this, they don't care, they care less. They even prefer the low turnout of people during election. You don't come out, they don't mind. All they want is they've been declared winners. So, but that is not democracy of the people, by the people, and for the people. Hence programs like this, and I really want to commend PAACA for this event. If we have civil society organizations, the media, amplify voices and speak out for the vulnerable, for the marginalized people, and let the world know that the people are really crying hard. A lot of challenges, socioeconomic challenges. Most times the money bags, yes, I'm coming out for election because there's food, there's hunger in the land. They don't mind. And people are already coming out to queue under the sun in the rain, which is not really making sense for us. And we also had Professor Sam said, are we practicing social democracy or liberal democracy? Which of the two should we practice? So the media, we've seen so much stories as to issues happening in the country, whether democracy is working or not, how can we get it right? Is there transparency? Is there accountability? Who should we hold responsible? Is INEC truly INEC, like independent? Is it truly independent? Is the judiciary truly independent? And then, this kingmaker stuff, just like the last panelist had said, the executive will decide who becomes who. It's really hitting hard. It's really telling on us, everybody. And the only way we can actually get things right is for conversations like this. We must continue to create more awareness. There must be more sensitization on what truly democracy is. Is it just for the elite alone? And then how do we come in? We have our right to make sure that those we vote, money doesn't count. It's unfortunate what we find ourselves in the situation during election, most times as if it's on purpose. They try to make the economy stiffen it a bit, and then people are hungry. And before you know it, people are really, letting down their guards. And you want that's peanuts, that's salt, that's Maggi. We really need conversations like this where we can have, more of our women gathered together. You don't use us during election and dump us. And that should be the focal point. That should be the conversation going forward. 2027 is by the corner. They will come with a whole lot of promises. They will come with a whole lot of campaign. But what and who do we want? People with credibility, people who have value, history, their record history. Let's dig deep into the persons, candidates who are coming out for election. Absolutely. And don't get carried away. I think that way we will get it right. We will not get it right until we become intentional about people who should govern us, whether at the federal level, at state level, and at local level.
Thank you so much. Please a round of applause for you. For her, rather. Somebody, I went to give a paper in University of Abuja one time, and I asked a group of young people, what does democracy to? And I asked them why they thought of democracy in that manner. And they said because all they hear are pronouncements, but they do not feel the real essence of leadership. And that's also echoing what Professor Sam said earlier. And I want to come to you, Professor Kari, because you are not just a political scientist. You have also, on various fora that I've seen you engaged on national discourse. We've had national confab, we've had sovereign national conference, we've had constitutional conference, we've been having all manner of conferences, communiques after communiques. And people keep asking, where is the democratic evolution from all of those processes and what's going to happen after? People still think that we are still at the same place. We're not where we used to be, but are we getting better quick? The question for a lot of people, and the answer, you heard it in this hall, is no. So my question would be, we've heard a lot about the problems. Now, can we look at the foundational issues? Because the problem is first tackled from the foundation before you even look at the symptoms. Are we merely treating the symptoms of the issue of democracy rather than going to the root causes? And, what attitudinal shifts do we need for credible, the word there is credible democracy to take root in Nigeria?
Thank you so much. Talking about the foundation, I think it is very important to stress one important fact. And for me, that is what we have missed in our march to democratization. Democracy as a system is also a culture. It's supposed to be a culture, a way of life, complete with its own attitude, behaviors, idiosyncrasies, do's and don'ts, norms, and so on. And that is where we missed it. Perhaps we were in so much hurry during the period leading to 1999 constitution, election or march to democracy. We were in so much hurry to see the back of the military, and we have forgotten to build, instill, and nurture the necessary democratic ethos, behaviors, and attitudes. And I think that is the foundational anomaly in our march to democracy. When we talk of democratic recession, whether in West Africa or Africa, when we talk about weak institutions that have been hijacked, when we lament about members of our political class who completely lack democratic ethos, they are not even Democrats. Political parties cannot elect their own officers. They rather prefer imposition through some dubious arrangements that they call consensus and acclamation and so on. The root cause is the inability to practice democracy as it should. And we can only practice democracy if we instill, imbibe, and practice the correct democratic culture. So actually that is where the problem lies. Whatever we see and lament, the root cause, as far as I'm concerned, it is this inability to nurture the right political culture. That is why political parties have become appendages of the presidency and the various government houses. That is why INEC is not independent. The judiciary has been procured or hijacked. We have not been able, as the lead speaker said, to produce outstanding jurists like Kayode Esho, Oputa, Obaseki, Mohammed Bello, and so on and so forth. And it is also why many Nigerians believe that the National Assembly, we do apologies to my friend, Honorable Ghana, that the National Assembly has become a rubber stamp. It is all tied down to our inability to nurture and grow the right democratic culture. And therefore, the solution lies for all the stakeholders in the democratic process, right from the family level, the media, civil society, political parties, the academia, and so on and so forth, to begin to see politics and democracy as a way of life, and to teach it, to socialize our young ones, to imbibe it and practice it. Otherwise, we will continue to paddle and wallow in lamentation. Our institutions will continue to remain very weak. They will not deliver the goods, and the people will continue to prefer perhaps the military rather than democracy. Because the reality is, if we are trying to equate democracy with development, in the last 25 or 26 years, we have only regressed. Democracy has not been able to deliver the goods. And if we fail to nurture the correct political culture, we will just be behaving like people who profess religions while forgetting the fundamentals of the religion. It's like trying to practice Christianity without Christ, Muslims without the teaching of the Quran and the Sunnah. That is what we are missing. So as a people, we have to seriously look at and indeed insist on the right democratic ethos, attitudes, behavior, actions, and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And indeed, you said something really clear, that all the ecosystems have to begin to see politics as a way of life, to teach it and to imbibe it. And that includes all institutions as well. I will come back to Alhaji Shehu. You know, he talked about elections, he talked about INEC, he talked about accountability. And I think I'll just do a bit of storytelling, because I ran elections in 2019. And when I ran elections in 2019, I ran to contest for state assembly in my state. And it was a vigorous election campaign process. One, I was the only female. Second, I was the youngest. Two, it was a very subnational party, even though it was a dominant party at that time, because APC, a lot of the APC members moved into Action Alliance at that time and became the party to beat, you know, with the sitting government. So running elections for me opened my eyes to some of the dynamics, because from the process of campaign to the process of election and the process of selection, because at the point where the election returning officer and all of the people, electoral officer, were managing the election, the vote was live. I had a situation room. We could see the results amplified live. We could see the numbers. It was very obvious I was winning. And in fact, it was just about maybe 45 minutes into announcing the result, and they took a break, a 1 hour to 2 hours break. And in that break that happened, a lot unhappened. And I don't want to, go straight into the stories. But then came the emergence that, there was one local government or one council that the results are not coming early, they have to wait for it. The next thing you hear is, there was violence, and those places had to be cancelled. But we also had, officers on ground. And, and it happened that at the end of the day, the person who came first, And the youths who knew what they voted, who were very enthusiastic that they saw the process, were in disbelief and total shock. And I'm telling you that even people cried. There was a lot of heartbreak, because for them it was not just the process in itself that failed them. It was the entire system. So, and I'm going back to this because of state election management. Because again, politics is local. Countries like Senegal and South Africa that, Prof mentioned earlier, have invested heavily in decentralizing electoral accountability. Ensuring local credibility feeds national legitimacy. That the elections at the states is what will give feed to the final results at the center. So from your experience as a REC, how can Nigeria strengthen subnational election management and transparency mechanisms to mirror these successes? Because if you do not manage it at the local level, what you have at the center will always be skewed. So how do we manage that?
Thank you so much. You were referring to the election in 2019, just 4 years, that I cannot deny what took place because you were a participant. However, I can also acknowledge that between 2019 and 2023, some changes had also taken place. And by this, I refer to the advent and the deepened use of technology for elections. What needs to be done, in my view, is that we need to take advantage of the positives that technology has brought and allow and deepen engagement by civil societies in making the leadership of the election administrators at that level more accountable. What do I mean? A candidate contesting the election in which a copy of the result of that election is supposed to be uploaded on the IREV. The Anambra election we just had it on Saturday. I was watching, I was reading. We were shown flashes of a polling unit where there was no result sheet when election was going on. Such things can happen, but of course we later got the explanation as to what happened. But taking advantage of technology and social media, that thing was beamed. It got to the attention of the management, and immediately they said the SPO said the presiding officer left before without collecting the result. That thing was rectified. But much more importantly is how technology was used to forestall any possible malpractice, as it were, to the extent that by 3 p.m. we began to have copies of the results on the IREV. I think we need to pay attention to what takes place from that stage. I, as a resident electoral commissioner, I sit in my state capital. Elections are being collated at units, and these officials have been told, please upload your result as soon as it is true before you even go to the collation center. How much effort are we paying into ensuring that these elements do what they are supposed to do? I have given the charge, do it. I didn't stop anybody from not doing it. So if they don't do it as at when due, it is as much a problem of the Electoral Commission as it is a problem of the society itself. If some elements bribe these officials, who by the way are not staff Electoral Commission, please mark it. If they are being compromised not to upload the result or to do something else to that result, yes, we'll take the blame, but the problem is as much of the institution as it is of the society. And I think, so I'm saying that we need to pay more attention by our civil society to deeply accountability by the legislator at that level. Very, very important. Very, very important. Because we stop at national presidential. The fact that there are elements that are willing and will do everything to compromise the system. Don't forget, it's still the same politicians who have only one thing in mind. Politicians, mostly in Nigeria, don't believe that they will lose. They go into the election that they must win, whereas only one person can win an election in which there are multiple candidates. So, but we take the blame when the thing doesn't go well, but most often than not, the thing again goes back to the system and the values with which we go into election. Poverty has made the situation more terrible because more people are willing to be compromised. The way people struggle to come to do election for INEC, you keep wondering, is it the 7,500 that we are giving? The answer is likely to be no. They are hoping that when they get to the field, some persons will visit them at that level. What is done at that level, how do I know? And if I do know, how much of can I do to stop it? So I believe that the process, we must interrogate the processes of our elections, including the process of declaring a winner, and set up citizen engagement and enforcement around those at that level. What am I saying? Our civil society organization needs to come down to the local level very seriously. Come down, break down. Instead of having 89 observer groups during presidential elections, why do you have that number? Have 40 or 20 that are credible, that can join forces together and ensure that INEC is marked bumper to bumper, to ensure that they do their bit, and much more importantly, that the people that are deployed for these elections also do their bit.
Absolutely.
The staff of INEC are barely 17,000 all over the Nigeria, but we engage not less than 1 million Nigerians for every typical election. How do we hold all of these elements also accountable so that they do what they are supposed to do?
Absolutely. Please, a round of applause. And it's profound listening to you say that, because it's also instructive, not just to the political class, but to citizens themselves. And one thing I know you have said is, let's interrogate the process of declaring winners at election. And civil society must leave the center and domesticate accountability. Thank you. And let me now come to the deputy chair. You know, earlier, a lot of people have signposted back to you because political parties are like the engine room of democracy. A conversation I have had, whether online or offline, with a lot of people, including politicians themselves, you know, alludes to the fact that political parties have become carcasses for protecting the elites rather than becoming people driven. And so it is only for the highest bidder. And for the political party, it's about winning the election. And you must have funds to win election. So how do you take away the conversation of the power being with the elites within the political class and giving people back the power? Because at the end of the day, it is the people that will vote your candidate. And if your candidate is not credible, but also somebody with a large purse, it doesn't speak well for the political ideology of any political party in the long run. And so it disrupts the system of trust for Nigerians. So how do we look at that layered conversation to take back the power from the elites? I'm not saying entirely let's have a class suicide altogether. I know people say let's have class suicide all the time, but how do we take that power back from that space back to the people?
Yes, I mentioned it earlier, and maybe I need to elaborate further, because political parties are supposed to be owned by the people. And how do you own a political party? If you look at the constitution of every political party, apart from being a member of a political party, to actually qualify to be referred to as a member of a party, you must be a financial member of that party. And you know, political parties need money to run their affairs. They have, according to the constitution, you must have offices in at least 2/3 of the states in the country. You must have administrative staff. And to do all these things, you need money. How do you fund political parties? It's through the members, financial members. But like I said earlier, how many Nigerians are so comfortable that they can even be contributing money to fund political parties. And I said it earlier, even ordinary meetings of political parties at whatever level, even let us say the unit level, the person, if you are inviting him or her as a member of the political party, the first question you ask is, are you guys going to give us transport fare? And if you have to give them transport fare, where is the money to fund the political parties come from? That is where those people with deep pocket are the one in charge. Because, okay, let me give you an example. We want to hold like a primary, maybe governorship election. And then you have to have a song where ad hoc delegates will emerge. And it is so bad that these ad hoc delegates expect you to give them money. In fact, in some instances, these big political parties, they don't even give them naira, they give them dollars. You have a situation where because it is expected that all the aspirants must be given the ad hoc delegate list. And they fish out these delegates, pack all of them, go and put them in one hotel, and from there they match them to where they will vote the following day. So it's a catch-22 situation. How do you expect political parties to get money to fund themselves? Parties are expected to be funded by the members in the party. But how many Nigerians can say, oh, I'm going for a meeting of the party, we are going to pay 1,000 naira? Like I said, they will even be requesting for money to go back. So the leadership of political parties are in a very difficult situation. And that is where, when they have no that choice, somebody will come in and say, okay, I'm going to take care of the problem. And that is where the problem of internal democracy comes in. Some people have been saying, yes, in the other constitution until I think 2007 or 2009,
All right.
parties were being funded by INEC. But now INEC itself is even grappling with issues of resources. So that one has been removed from the constitution. So that's why I said, whatever we are doing with the constitution, we must be very conscious of the fact that we need to let our political parties be solvent. Okay. How do we make sure political parties are solvent and that those people who are administering the party are in a position to administer the party without relying on either somebody in the executive or somebody with deep pocket? Mm-hmm. So there's a need for us to solve this problem. It's very, very clear.
And this is just as we wrap up. Grace, I come to you and I think I'll just ask the question, taking it from what he said, that citizens should be willing to make sacrifices for democracy to work. Because when you tax political parties for money, when you tax politicians, they budget for stomach infrastructure. So they are thinking of your stomach first before deliverables after the poll. So how do you take back the power of the people and put it back in their hands, whether poor or not?
So there's need for us to address socio-economic challenges like insecurity, hunger, inequality that erode participation. There is also need for the civil society organization, the media, for us to work together. I'm happy Situation Room is actually doing a lot, but we also need more. There's need for us to report activities. Last election, we saw a lot of drama, particularly when people were supposed to secure their vote. They were just carried away, just like the LP. They were just focused on shouting 41, 42, but the result wasn't actually uploaded. So there's need for a lot of awareness. There's need for a lot of sensitization. There's need for us to have conferences like this and educate the public on the need to guide their vote jealously and make sure that people who come around to campaign are persons with trust, someone with a whole lot of credibility, value, somebody you can actually, dig deep to understand that he or she can provide, can support, can be transparent and accountable whenever the demand arises. It's not going to be easy, but I know with determination, with us being intentional about it, there's nothing difficult. I think the story here is about engagement. Let's keep engaging. Let's amplify our voices. And I believe Nigeria will get it right and will be a better place. Those in favor say aye. Those against it say nay.
And the eyes have it. All right, finally, I come to you, Professor Kari. Just as we round up, you know, we've said a lot about elections, we've said a lot about the citizenship, we've said a lot about the political class. Democracy is not only about elections. And the conversation here is, how do we move from thinking of democracy as just a voter's card to active, sustainable citizens' engagement? And going forward, what must be the redirection of our citizenship in terms of our participation?
Well, I think the madam from NUJ has said one of the fundamental things, citizens' engagement. For democracy to be enthroned, for it to prosper, we have to go back to the fundamental pillars of democracy. And there are 3 or 4 of them. I verily believe that if we are going to faithfully practice those 3 things, our democracy is going to prosper. The first one is choice, and that's where INEC comes in. Democracy guarantees choice. As a matter of fact, there cannot be democracy without choice. The choice of the citizens on who should lead them, which system is better for them, must for no reason be abridged. And citizens need to know, as a matter of their civic responsibility, that sovereignty lies with them. So citizens must be allowed to exercise choice unfettered. The second one is participation, which is the citizen engagement. You cannot have democracy without participation. And there shouldn't be obstacles placed in the way of participation. Democracy operates based on the maxim of the more the merrier. It is a sad commentary that if you look at the turnout in successive elections, they hover between 25 to 45%. At the best of time, it's not more than 45%, which means that citizens are not actually engaging. Whatever can be done must be done for the people to own the democratic process, to participate and participate meaningfully. The third one is rule of law. Democracy cannot exist, cannot prosper without adherence to the rule of law. Rule of law rather than rule of men. What we have now are big men and women who believe that they are above the law. And this is one of the major problems of our democratic march. Institutions must insist, institutions must whip citizens, no matter. The law must not be a respecter of anybody. If we faithfully abide by these 3 principles, our democracy will prosper. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a very salient place for us to rest this conversation. But first, I want to say thank you to my panelists. You've been excellent from the beginning to the end. Alhaji said quite clearly that the implementation of the use of technology is needed. We need to take ownership of what happens at the state level, interrogate the process of declaring winner. And Grace also said, do not be carried away, seek the background of those who want to lead us, which is very, very key. And the deputy chairman says citizens should be willing to make sacrifices for democracy to work. And Professor Kari has said it, choice, participation, and rule of law must be made to thrive for democracy to live. Thank you so much. I don't think I have enough time for questions and answers. So on that note, we have come to this first panel. I want to say you have been fantastic. Took it quite a time, but we are very grateful for your participation. Please, a round of applause for them as they take their leave. Group pictures, please. Group picture.
Thank you. Where is Grace? Please, yeah. Please, Dr. Sam, join this photograph so that, and Honorable Ghana, please join the photographs at the same time. Quickly, please. Thank you. Please, Mrs. Kemi Okendo, please come up, please, quickly. I don't know why you went to hide at the back. The goldfish has no hiding place. Dr. Matthew Adoyi, are you here?